All right, LSU and Mississippi State, SEC matchup here. We've got LSU a 9.5, 10-point road favorites, 53.5, 54 being the total in this game. Ended up cashing a ticket last week, Conor, against Mississippi State. And I mentioned it on Hitting the Books last week. Thought Arizona was very live against Mississippi State. Reading the tea leaves, I don't like what they're doing in Starkville. I don't like that they extricated and eradicated the air raid that Will Rogers was so comfortable running under the now, of course, deceased Mike Leach. I don't like what Zach Arnett's doing. It's like he's trying to say, okay, my team now, we're doing it this way, we're doing it that way. And that's not how you do things sometimes in college football and expect great results. Now, they did win last week, 31-24. It's not like it was the end of the world. They still got a victory, but didn't cover the number, obviously. And I think they still look at this as a Mississippi State team where, still some concerns, certainly some concerns in their secondary. DeLauro lit them up. If he didn't have 4 interceptions, he also, as long as in the times he didn't throw the football to Mississippi State with those interceptions, he was moving it up and down the field through the air, 342 passing yards against Mississippi State secondary. LSU on the meanwhile, Florida State, we know what happened there, fell apart in the second half. Really, Florida State was the better team. That's all it was. And Florida State got the win 45-24. They bounced back. They rolled past Grambling, 72 points. You kind of figured they were going to lay it on thick. 57-point favorites. They still covered. They won that game by 62 against Grambling State. It was a feel-good type of game. Jaden Daniels bouncing back. The defense bouncing back as well. We'll see how they fare here against Mississippi State. I mean, I'm not high on Mississippi State this year compared to last year, compared to the last couple of years under Mike Leach. I'm not necessarily in love with what Arnett's doing from a coaching standpoint. We're now doing different things on offense when our offense wasn't the issue. And I still have concerns about Mississippi State's defense, and what we saw from their secondary last week against Arizona is proof of that. LSU, the last 2 years, they've won against Mississippi State. 2 years ago here at Mississippi State, it was a close game. They only won by 3. But last year they won 31-16 over Mississippi State, 15-point win. I'm not sure I'll bet this one because I am not as high on LSU as the markets are, and I'm definitely not very high on Mississippi State this year compared to last year. But, at 9.5, I'll just give the slightest of leans to the LSU Tigers here. I mean, these are the games that Brian Kelly wins. He wins against teams that's better at better talent, better personnel. It's the games against the step-up foes where Brian Kelly shits the bed over and over again, and obviously we saw that with the Florida State game in their opener. What do you think here, Conor? LSU, Mississippi State.
That's true. I think this is solid here. It's tough to go to Starkville and win and maybe cover this number. I was going to maybe look at LSU team total in this game because that same Mississippi State defense is there. I think LSU could take advantage here. You talked about DeLauro just threw all over him, and really, I mean, they kind of beat him in everything in that game. But man, if you look at the box score when I was going through it last night, Mississippi State had a ton of penalties. You mentioned they're not throwing it a ton, 160. They ran for 145, but DeLauro had over 340. I think they can do that here, Jaden Daniels and LSU. So if you don't want to lay the 10, I think maybe look to LSU's team total here. If Arizona can get there, I think LSU could maybe get in the 30s in this game.
Yeah, I'll give a lean to the over as well. I think the total's in a good spot, 53, 54, but I'd certainly play it over before I play it under. I think LSU will get their points in this game against Mississippi State. You do have a veteran quarterback. I don't like the change in scheme this year. I don't think that's a good thing for Will Rogers. But look, he actually still moved the ball well enough last week against Arizona. So over the lean for me as well as the road favorite.